Welcome to the Badger Den. Well, guys, it's been an interesting run with Musk. I'm sure we're going to see more of him, but let's look at what's going on with the Muskinator. Also, let's see what's happening in the U.S. right now regarding Iran. And there's not a lot of good news today, so I'm going to bring you the best I got, and it might mean you make a quick trip to Florida this fall. It's good stuff. Alrighty, so as you guys already know, there's been a little bit of a Musk-Trump, dichotomy going on where there's a little bit of, hot under the collar, getting upset, and Musk has some valid reasons. I'm sure you guys have all heard about the big, beautiful, ugly bill. All right, I don't mean ugly. Okay, it's ugly. It's basically a carryover. For those who are not familiar with the reconciliation process, you carry over the prior budgetary piece and you make changes to it. So this is the Biden budget that is now being altered in a horrible plastic surgery gone wrong into this big, beautiful bill. There are some horrible things in this bill, and Musk has every reason to be upset. All the work that he's done regarding Doge, very little of it's in it. In fact, only one part of it, $10 billion, has been cut via a rescission package. Rescission is where essentially you take something, a line item within the budget, and you say that's no longer going to be a part of this. And that's only been done for $10 billion, a drop in the metaphorical bucket of the budget. However, at least it is something. So let's look at now, initially, Musk and Trump had kissed and made up. Let's look at now what's going on with the big, beautiful bill. There's two versions of it. There's the House version, and now the GOP have come up with a Senate version. The Senate version is worse than the House version by several factors. Having said that, there are some decent things in the Senate bill that could be integrated in the House, but won't. The Senate one is probably going to be passed because the Senate generally has a little bit more power than the House, but the House has way more goodies in it as far as you'll see. So let's actually look and see what's being said. On Monday, yesterday, Musk stated he would actively work toward ensuring that GOP lawmakers who vote to pass the One Big Beautiful Bill despite campaigning on promises to rein in government spending would lose their primaries. He posted up on X this fiery tweet with an image in it, and he said, "Your image here." It's kind of quite funny. If you vote for the Big Beautiful Bill in your GOP. So he is calling them out. He's coming after them. Every member of Congress who campaigned on reducing government spending and then immediately voted for the biggest debt increase in history should hang their head in shame, and they will lose their primary next year if it is the last thing I do on this earth. Remember, Musk was a Democrat. He voted for Biden in 2020. This man is unhinged. He is an Asperger's addict. If you mess with him, again, he lost a child over the woke mind virus, and he flipped the script and says, "I am destroying you, Democrats, and destroying the woke." I hope he sticks to that message. Guys, if you piss him off enough and you make him lose his focus, he will come after you with a passion like you saw under the 2024 election. He will throw his money away, burn down his houses in order to destroy you. Don't piss this man's off. Having said that, Trump is no slouch either. As you saw, Musk backing down as he made some radical, unhinged comments regarding Trump that were completely fabricated. Having said all that, both of these men are incredibly smart. Both of these men are incredibly powerful. Let's hopefully hope that they come to some sort of reconciliation. Case in point, Tom Tillis is getting his butt kicked out. Tom Tillis has already backed down. He's a horrible senator in the state of North Carolina who has sold out North Carolina multiple times. Most North Carolinians who know his record don't like him and will not vote for him again. Trump's spending and tax cut goals for this second term to the president's desk by the stated deadline of July 4th on the Big Beautiful Bill. Top line items in the Big Beautiful Bill mean extending the 2017 tax cut set to expire at the end of this year, boosting funds for border security, cutting red tape for American energy production. That's about the best stuff that's in it. There are some other good items that unfortunately the Senate has cut out thanks to this horrible Democrat that is going through his parliamentarian process. We'll get into that. On Musk, they're asking, because again, Musk is stating he's very upset about the Big Beautiful Bill. This is Trump's response. He's basically saying that they might have Doge go after Elon, that essentially all the subsidies and all the contracts that Musk is getting might be cut out. Musk right now is the only real person that's sending stuff to space. There's no contest. If you go and you see as far as how many launches they're doing just in Q1, there's no other company that comes close. I think the next closest company, Musk is still doing like 3 to 4 times as many launches. The U.S. Space Force, anything sending stuff to space, they need Musk. They've got a lock on it right now. They're doing great things. Hate to say it. Well, I don't hate to say it. It's great. Musk, in his usual style, so tempting to escalate this. So tempting. But I will refrain for now. And then he goes on. What good is Doge saving $160 billion? Which, again, that's just what they agreed to cut when this bill increased the debt ceiling by $5 trillion. It makes a mockery of the work. Again, the $5 trillion is coming from the Senate version. America goes de facto bankrupt. How are we supposed to reach Mars? Musk, again, he's forward-thinking. He sees the writing on the wall. I've been beating this drum for a while. The debt crisis is coming, guys. Take those dollars, convert them to an asset. Oh, yeah. Speaking of that, we are now buying our own debt. We are now the purchasers of our own debt of last resort. Guess what third world countries generally do that? Zimbabwe says what? We're on a highway to inflation. So, looking at the House and Senate differentiators between the two different versions. The SALT cap. The SALT cap is disgusting. Basically, it allows Democratic-controlled states that jack up their taxes, use that as a write-off for federal taxes. It's disgusting. It's nasty. I don't like it, but it allows blue states to basically jack up their taxes and find some way to recompense for it. It's disgusting. The Senate does cap it at $10K. That's the placeholder. Hopefully it stays closer to that. It's basically a way for blue states to get away from their horrible policies. It's dumb. Everything else is relatively similar regarding tip income, overtime pay, car loan interest. The car loan interest, actually, both of them are kind of combined would be great because it basically points out the Senate is looking for deductible for new vehicles only. Car loan interest for new and used. The used can be abused very easily. Recreation all-terrain vehicles would be exempted. Come on, if it's made in America and it's a recreational vehicle, you should allow it. If that's what the purpose of this is. Enhance the senior citizen deduction to $6,000. That would be great because they're on a fixed income. We know cost of living increases are BS as far as what they're giving to senior citizens and Social Security. Whatever. This version though, it sounds worse, but it's actually better. The child tax credit make a maximum of $2,200 through the year of 2028 and then adjusted for inflation. That would be better because believe me, inflation is the secret tax that kills the impoverished, kills low income, kills middle class. It's better if it's adjusted for inflation in the long run. This $2,500 and then $2,000 and it drops to $2,000. No. The Senate's version is better on this. 23% for qualified business income deduction. That's better. The other one over here isn't half bad. Wind and solar repeal within 60 days on the subsidies. 2-year phase out. The 2-year phase out is more realistic. There's been a bunch of projects that have been set up over the last probably year and a half, 2 years. I know a lot of the solar stuff as far as what's even done, that takes a lot of planning to go through. It makes more sense to phase it over 2 years. I don't like it personally, but let's be realists here. Private foundation income tax. This is great. So private foundation investment income, this should be taxed. These are where all your billionaires and estates and whatnot, where they're basically setting up these supposedly not-for-profit NGOs, and they're going out and doing stuff for the benefit of other things. They're not. They're BS. Those should be taxed. And it's just for foundations with $5 billion or more in assets. It's a way for large corporations, large investment holders, wealth management groups to hide money. Your Hillary Clinton foundations. Yeah. Okay. Now you're with me as soon as I said that. Yeah. It's basically going after those. Those are not for profit. The Bill and Melinda Gates foundations, it's a way to take those down a notch. And those should. Those are not doing anything, but they're politically motivated. Another good one on the House that has gotten taken out in the Senate. Again, these are the good ones. Top rate of 21% for colleges with endowment of more than $2 million per student. This is basically coming after the elite Ivy League universities that are churning out little commies. Yeah, taking those down a peg or two. That would be fantastic. Frankly, I don't think colleges should have private endowments that are not taxed. There, I said it. Debt ceiling increase of $4 trillion, and essentially the Senate increased it to $5 trillion. This is really what Musk is going bananas over, is that extra trillion. Now, in the scheme of things, that extra trillion is insane. It basically buys a long runway for the Republicans to continue to spend and basically drops it off a cliff in 2028 is what they're doing. Musk wants to see the spending stop. Good for him. He's finally drawing a line in the sand. It's awful. There are some additional items. So this is where it gets real nasty what the Senate did. So in the parliamentary process, when it goes to the Senate bill, they allow whoever's the parliamentarian, which is this position within the Senate, to basically decide what items should and shouldn't be included based upon the package itself. Because again, this is a carryover package. So this doesn't allow you to put actual law into effect. It must be related to the budget. If it's not related to the budget, it shouldn't be included. But this person that did it, I don't remember her name, is a POS politician who essentially did use political de facto litmus tests for what to include and not to include. Specifically, this is what she carved out. This is what was cut. Yeah, Elizabeth McDonnell, or whatever her name is. Another thing that got taken out is reduce the Pell Grant eligibility for high-income students. They took that out in the Senate. It would have been nice because if you're in the upper echelon, you don't deserve a Pell Grant. Your mommy and daddy can pay for it. Why are we subsidizing these lawyers and doctors, wealthy families whose kids are not going to get paid out of the pocket from the government? Really? Really? So this Elizabeth McDonough person who's a POS, this is what she did. So under the parliamentarian process, she gets to determine what goes in and out of the reconciliation process for the budget, remember. So it must be per budget process. These provisions included one that empowered the states to enforce immigration law, multiple provisions related to the federal workforce, and provision financially rewarding cost-cutting measures by government agencies. So again, every single one of these were related to the budget of the United States, but she cut them out because she said, no, that has to go through Congress. This POS woman, who is a political hack, literally said that these things that are financially motivated, that are directly related to the budget, directly enforce immigration. So in other words, states that didn't enforce immigration law, they would see cuts. So these were going to be your cuts coming from LA, your cuts in New York, all the sanctuary cities. This is where your cuts were going to come in. Say, if you didn't enforce immigration law, you're getting cuts. That's why you're seeing Pam Bondi, I'm sure you saw it in the headlines, is suing LA. We will do that story tomorrow, but essentially they're now having to sue LA because of this parliamentary process, this POS Democrat. Mike Lee also had a proposal to sell federal lands, which caused a firestorm of controversy online. Mike Lee, he does some crazy stuff. He does a lot of good stuff as well. I don't know what he was thinking on this. There's a whole can of worms to open on why this is good and why it's bad. We're not going to get into that. Regardless, it got cut out. Another proposal. Now, this one makes a little more sense. Proposal to cut the $200 excise tax and regulations on silencers and firearms. Again, there's a lot of stuff that we can go into that can of worms. Not going to go into it because this is already going to be long as it is. Let's just to say that those type of stuff that there's two-way, proponents got cut out, which is sad. An AI policy wrapped in the final text was also altered from an earlier version. This one's kind of odd. So she cut out where you could not put regulations state level for regulating AI. So in other words, putting in state level requirements saying AI cannot be racist, as we saw in a prior stream. Yeah, those type of laws would not be able to put in effect at the state level for 10 years. Imagine what AI has done in the past year. Amplify that by 10. Do you think really by 10 years it's going to matter at that point? Yeah, we're all going to be in dystopian 1984 commie utopia by that point, if it goes the way that some of us thinks it might go, with Skynet basically rearing its head. Ugh. So not great text. They have basically put this revision back in there by tying it to tax dollars. Again, by tying it to tax dollars, it makes it legal. So this one she was okay with. These other ones that were tied to tax dollars, she wasn't okay with. A political POS hack. And they allowed her to get away with it. She also rejected a pay cut for Federal Reserve employees and a repeal of programs authorized by the Biden-era Inflation Reduction Act. She's a horrible person. Among other rulings that would have had to pass the chamber as regular bills. So, again, all of this stuff is why Musk is absolutely losing his gourd, and he's got some pretty legit claims to why he's upset. However, how you feeling, buddy? I know you're upset, but let's think it out. Roman Helmet Guy, don't know him, but he got a retweet or Musk responded directly to him. Elon Musk threatened to start a new political party called the New American Party that would comprise of 80% of all Americans, basically saying, don't trans the kids, don't have abortion after the second and third trimester. Basically, a lot of stuff that most Americans, while not being 100% with, we can live with that. It gets 20% of the vote, mostly from former Republicans. Dems win a supermajority. Dems then throw Elon in prison, which is probably par for the course. Another point of this is that potentially it could pull a lot of Democrats' way as well. I think this is a 50-50 toss-up at this point until we see some more serious poll numbers and study on this. But it is an interesting thought exercise to say what would really happen if Musk really did bite that bone and go full bore. Because we saw what he did in 2024. Imagine him taking his wealth, power, and prestige and pushing that for a new party. It makes you wonder, don't it? And then Musk responds back, yeah, pretty much. So hopefully, again, Musk calms down a little bit, cools his head, and finds another path. I don't know what that path is. Maybe this is the path. Who knows? Nobody can predict the future, but it is an interesting thought exercise. This is really weird. So, Bubba, what you doing? What you doing? For those that don't know, the CIA overthrew Syria using this puppet called Ahmed. Ahmed overthrew Syria using CIA proxies and basically throwing over Syria. The person that was propped up there, I don't even remember the dude's name, al-Assad maybe. He ran Syria, who's pretty much propped up by Russia. So again, it was another one of those little proxy conflicts back and forth. I guess Russia didn't see this one coming. The CIA got in there real quick with probably special ops and overthrew the Syrian government in literally like a month or two. And now this terrorist, he is a terrorist, is running Syria. And Bubba's over there being like, hey, buddy, we're going to drop all the sanctions on you. I don't know what's going on there. I am not believing in this 4D, 5D chess BS. I don't know what's going on. Trump met with Ahmed, who toppled Syria's anti-American dictator, Bashar al-Assad. Again, it's Syria. He was at least keeping the country intact. He's not a good man, but we've now put up a legit terrorist running Syria now. What the F is going on? Trump described the terrorist turned head of state as a young, attractive guy with a very strong past of killing people. Yeah, Americans too. Al-Assad was toppled by Ahmed and his U.S. designated terrorist organization. That's right, his whole group is designated as a terrorist organization. In December, Ahmed, who was once affiliated with Al-Qaeda, and ISIS leader Abu al-Bakr Baghdadi, that POS, and it had a $10 million FBI bounty on his head for almost a decade before it was lifted in 2024. I wonder why it was lifted, because he was probably working with the CIA getting ready to top Syria. Yeah. Rubio said he would also take appropriate action with regard to the foreign terrorist organization designation of his terrorist group. Oh, look, his buddies get to join too. Ahmed has been accused of grave human rights violations and reportedly plans to impose strict Sharia law on the country. Swell. Why? Why don't we just tariff them into existence? Out of existence? I don't know. Well, what are the Dems up to with all this? One of the things to note, they're creating a Project 2029 to create a list of policy for the next Democratic. Again, taking off, I think it was Project 2025 or Project 2025 from the Heritage Foundation. So they're taking that playbook, rewriting it for Project 2029, but who they have is legit hilarious. And this plays into my theory that what you're seeing with Zohan up in the mayor office of New York, running for the mayor office of New York, you're seeing a schism at the Democratic Party where some of the Dems are going legit deranged commie like these, and another group of Dems, like we saw in a prior stream, they're trying to peel off and moderate. But in reality, they're not moderating. They're just pretending to moderate. If they pretend to moderate, that is their path to win. It will. They will pull off enough moderates, enough independents. They will win in 2026, the midterms. And they will probably win 2028 if they continue to pretend to moderate and they keep their craziness covered up long enough. However, I hope 2029, this project, and Zohan continues to rear their heads to show what the Democrats really represent now. The mask is off. They are Marxist nut jobs. So a former Bill Clinton speechwriter and Arizona congressional candidate, Adrini Cherney, he has now launched this project, and this is what he has brought in. He brought in Jake Sullivan. Yeah, does that name sound familiar? Slaughter. I had to look this one up. Justin Wolfers, he is dumb. I've seen a lot of his videos. I've actually commented on some of his videos online, and he responds back in just gibberish. He's an absolute nutbag. Felicia Wong and Jim Kessler. For those that recognize some of these names, yeah. Sullivan was in charge in the Afghanistan withdrawal that saw the murder of 13 American servicemen and complete disaster in Afghanistan and the toppling of that entire government in days. He was also part of the hoax to smear the President Trump, the Russian collusion hoax that was done by the Hillary Clinton campaign, Obama, and essentially the deep state. Slaughter then pushed for more strikes on the Middle East, so she's a war hawk. That's the best I could find on her. Wolfers, I know, seen his stuff. He is just a total legit deranged person. He has no sense. When you go look up his economic videos, he's nuts. Wong pushed for a wealth tax. So she is a socialist. She's a deranged socialist. She has come out and said she wants to redistribute wealth based upon race and gender. So she wants to take your money and give it to this person over there because they look different than you. Kessler promoted government intervention and control of major industries. So he is a communist as well. Again, I hope they go for this because it really exposes what they're trying to do. This is very interesting. I don't think this is getting as much coverage as it should be. There's now been a fatwa put on President Trump. A fatwa is a legit call to action, I don't want to say a jihad, but a call to action, a surgical strike, if you will, by the jihadis on President Trump. They say you need to go hurt this person. You need to go kill this person. You need to destroy this person. Iran's senior Shiite cleric has declared war on President of the United States. The Islamic Republic's Grand Ayatollah Nasir Makarim Shazazi issued a fatwa stating the threats against Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, particularly by President Trump, constitute a war against Islam. Any collaboration is forbidden. Muslims must respond with severe punishment. The regime is using religious law to justify action against American political leadership. This fatwa is not an outlier. It's a state-sanctioned pretext for terror. Yes, terror here in the United States. Go back in my prior streams. I've been calling that this is going to happen, and we will see why. The Islamic Republic has a documented history of carrying out extraterritorial operations, assassinations in Europe, surveillance of U.S. targets, plots against dissidents, and support for military proxies. Not only that, it's also done terrorism abroad. The fatwa gives legal and religious cover for future attacks. It sets the stage for proxy operations, lone actor violence, because again, people who are Islamist extremists will see this and they will believe they are being called upon by their religion to go and attack Trump. So it's not just Iranians who are here in the States, terrorists here in the States, but also lone wolf actors that the FBI may not be aware of that now get triggered, literally. And state-sponsored terror framed as divine justice. The regime has already authorized retaliation against American and Israeli targets. The network is active. The planning is done. All that remains is execution. The regime's intentions are not hypothetical. In the months leading up to 2024 presidential election, Iranian operatives were actively plotting to assassinate Donald Trump, according to Western intelligence sources. Not only that, some have recently been arrested. A terrorist plot has been foiled by the FBI recently, as this week. More arrests were done last year regarding supposedly Trump. Again, some people believe that was an operation here in the U.S., a false flag. Regardless, the FBI has arrested Iranian terrorists here in the U.S. already this week alone. This is a legit call to arms, call to action against our president. So, what you be really saying, Willis? So this is the direct actual connection and call to arms from the Fatwa. I ain't even going to read all this because this is some crazy deranged stuff. So, calling out, this is a war against Islam. According to the Quran, indeed, the penalty for those who wage war against God and his messenger, these acts carry a severe punishment. I consider it a haram or forbidden to remain silent in the face of such threats. In other words, if you care and you're a true Muslim, get your butt up and go do something. It is necessary for Muslims around the world to strongly condemn these threats and take appropriate and united actions. May God preserve the Islamic community from the evil of enemies under the protection of the Imam of the age. God may hasten his reappearance and reward the righteous defenders. They all be about what's that coming up. Ain't that some dim sum? They think they're going to get some of them virgins is what they think they're just going to get. Instead, they're going to get a bunch of hellfire. Oh, ain't that some dim? Why I'm saying this is a serious issue. Under the Biden administration, so just under the 4 years Biden ran, over 500,000 came in under Biden. 650,000 from the Middle East came here. Roll that through your head. 650,000 confirmed. This isn't estimated. This is confirmed. Over 650,000 Middle Easters came here. 100,000 illegally that were known to come here. These were a lot of the people that didn't want to be caught. These are a lot of people that snuck in. These are a lot of people that potentially were Iranian terrorists or Iranian sympathizers. And guess what? All of these people have in common. From this region, not saying the Muslims here in the U.S., I don't care if you want to conflate it. The point is, Islamists that come from the Middle East, this is what they believe. 90% of them support Sharia law. They love them honor killings. 20 to 40%, depending on where they come from relative to the state of Israel, support intifada. In other words, the death of all Jews. The closer they are to Israel, the more that number jacks up. In fact, it goes way above 40%. I'm doing an average here. The further they are from Israel, then it's closer to 20%, maybe even a little less. 15%, this is de facto, 15% support political violence. Guess what that political violence entails? Killing civilians via terroristic acts. And those people are in this country. So let's just say 15% of those are willing to commit terrorism. That's 100,000 known people from that territory that are willing to commit violence on Americans, and 22,000 from unknown sources. That is nuts, people. That's what I said. Stay strapped or get clapped. Keep your head on a swivel. Pay attention, because things are going to start getting crazy. Patel, I hope you got locked in, buddy, because it's about to get real. And so with that, this is the best I got for you. Florida DeSantis announces a tax holiday on guns. Second Amendment tax holiday for this year, September 8th to December 31st, is tax-free on firearms, ammunition, and accoutrement. Good on you, DeSantis. Good on you, man. All right, guys. That's all I got. Oh, I wish I had better news. I don't like giving you bad news, but I want to give you the best of what's coming around the world. All right, especially, coming around the world, and that's impacting us here. So, this is Mouthy, signing off.